Hi everyone, I'm excited to share the May Beginner's Jewelry content with you guys. We're going to learn to fuse argentium. Now, soldering can be daunting, but fusing argentium is a snap, and I'm excited to share this project with you. My students have come away from my studio for years amazed at how easily a project goes together when you're fusing with argentium. Now I'm going to insert a picture here. And this is the project as originally designed. I have a confession to make though. There was a video clip that I searched 2 hours for, and I don't know what happened to it. It just got deleted somehow. Things happen. But luckily, I did a live video where I decided to take that pendant and add more embellishment to it. It's much more challenging to do that, and so I never intended to include it in the beginner jewelry tutorial. But I've used that video in the tutorial, so you're going to get the added benefit. Not only are you going to learn how to fuse this line, but you're going to learn how to add all of this. Now, I will tell you, it is much more challenging. The more embellishments you add, the more challenging it is. So if you choose to stop with just this one row, do not feel bad. Because let me recommend, when you're fusing something with this much embellishment, I recommend adding all the pieces together and fusing them all at the same time. Now, obviously, because I had done this portion when filming the video, I had this part and then I added this part in my live. But I still wanted to add more, so then I went back and fused all of this. I don't like to fuse argentium that many times. It turned out fine, it's great. I just think it wears on the metal. Each time that you're fusing, you're messing with the molecular structure of the metal. But argentium is a quality metal. In fact, it is more silver than sterling. So it's an incredible metal to work with. But I just think you do better when you fuse it all at the same time. And that's my personal opinion. So I wanted to show you this because the pictures, they always fall short. Particularly with silver, because the light often makes the silver look white. And this is just so incredible. This back plate, we did a unique technique on, so it's a matte finish with slight grooved textures. And then we patinaed, and I brushed back everywhere except where the wires and the balls are. I also left the patina real close in here. I added a leather cord, and I didn't even put a clasp on. I just simply tied the ends. I think it's a great pendant, and I left the cord long because I think I like that style. You can make it as long or as short as you want. The thing about leather is it's inexpensive. You can buy a roll of it at even a craft store, and you can make it as long or as short as you want. And starting out, when you don't want to learn how to have to make a chain, or even some chains are very, very expensive. But one of the reasons I chose leather on this one as well is this is a very rustic looking pendant, and I thought the leather complemented it well. Also, if you made this leather cord shorter, I think this geometric shape would be very attractive to a gentleman, to a guy. So I wanted to show you that. I wanted to tell you what we're making. please don't forget to schedule our calls. I would love to talk with you guys. The one thing I miss about doing the online classes is that I don't have you face-to-face to discuss the project with. I don't have you face-to-face to hear your concerns. And that is what the chat is for. Please, please schedule your chat sessions. We can talk video call so you can show me your piece and show me your question, or we can just talk on the phone. It doesn't matter to me. So, don't forget to click and schedule your call, and we don't have to talk for a full hour. If you've got 10 minutes worth that you want to talk about, then we'll talk for 10 minutes. And we can talk about whatever you want. So anyway, I wanted to show you the May beginner project. Oh, also, I have on the April beginner project earrings. I absolutely love these things. I have worn them ever since I made them. I have worn the advanced April project, but these are so cool, and I love the contrast of metals. Now, if you happen to have missed this project, I will sell the individual projects for sale. They won't be as inexpensive as just taking the monthly membership, but if you want that project, it is available for purchase. So, all right, happy making. Okay, I have my 18 gauge Argentium silver wire, and it is dead soft. I annealed it and I made sure of that. You're going to need a round object. I've chosen this doming dowel. Let me see, it is 1.5 inches. Pick whatever size you want. You can modify this project to the size you want. Although the smaller sizes, the less metal you will use. So if you do not have a dowel or a doming dowel or something like this, just find any small object, a bottle, a jar, anything that is the shape and size that you want. You're going to want to make sure that it does fit on your silver. So if you've got just a scrap left, you want to make sure that you've got plenty of room around the object. Now we're going to make this oval, so it'll be narrower and a little bit longer, but I see that I have plenty of room on my silver to do that. So take your round object you're going to use for a mandrel, and then just wrap your wire tightly around it. And you'll see when it's dead soft, it conforms very easily. Now I'm going to overlap this a little bit because, and I'm going to mark right there, I've overlapped that probably 1/4 inch because I want to, that's got a little bit of a wobble in it, and then I want to smooth the ends and file them down so that they get a good join. Now, it's not important that it's exactly this shape. I'm just using this to get a round shape and then to have something to measure and mark. So now at this point, I'm going to just take these snips and I'm going to snip right there at my mark. I'm going to take these pliers and I'm going to straighten up some of those wobbles. I'll be glad I did later. Okay. Now we're going to want to have those ends facing each other. I'm just going to gently bend it. Now it's okay that it's not circular. It's more important right now that we get the ends facing each other. And you'll see they're kind of dipped down like a heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my pliers and I'm going to gently bring them back. And I'm just going to work them together until I get the ends to match. You can see that they're a little offset, so I'm just going to tweak it there. the larger a wire ring that you're working with in circumference, the more challenging it is to get those ends to meet. If this were a small jump ring, it would be much, much easier. Now what I'm trying to do when I go back and forth like that is I'm trying to put a little spring in it, so when I put the ends together, this little work hardened, so when you do this, we're work hardening this bottom here just enough that it creates a spring effect so that it will press those ends together. Now we want to, you may need your optivisors for this, or if you've got very good vision, that's fine. Just work with this until you know that the ends are together. Okay, now I have put just a small bit of Rhonda Coriel's Purple Flux in this little condiment cup. And I'm going to place my ring in it. When you're working with argentium silver, you want it, and you're fusing it, you want it completely fluxed. Now, you may notice when I lay that down, my wire offset. As you're moving it from your bench to your solder station and you're dipping it in the flux, very often it will come apart. So before you go to fuse it, just double check to make sure your joint is together. Lay it there and lay it down in such a place that you know that that's where your seam is, because sometimes with the flux and everything, it's easy to lose sight of where that actually is. Now if you have a butane torch, you can definitely fuse argentium silver. I worked with this for years and it works beautifully. Now, there are different types of butane torches, so please don't feel that you have to have a silversmith torch. But you do need to have a bushy flame. Something like the Little Smith torch will not work for argentium. It has a too targeted a flame. What you need is a bushy flame, and the butane torches do that. So now I'm going to point my torch straight down, and I'm going to circle it, and I'm keeping it 2 to 3 inches above the metal. We don't want to get it too close. It will heat it too quickly. Now I'm looking for the flux already went white and puffy, and now it's dirty, and as soon as that dirty flux burns away, then I'm going to move over to where my seam is, and I'm going to focus on fusing it. But I do want to burn off that dirty looking flux first. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and forth on my seam now. If you see a dark line, then that's the shadow, and there it just fused. It's got the white germanium oxide that forms once you have fused something. You will always look for that white line. It's very hot now, so I'm going to let it cool. We don't want to move it or quench it too quickly. The wire will cool much quicker though than the sheet will. And I'm going to put it in my little basket here, and then I'm going to quench it, and I'm going to put it in the pickle, and then we will continue. Okay, so now that we have our ring out of the pickle, we're going to want to form an oval. And if you press gently on the sides and then pull, you will get an oval. Now you'll want to take the pads of your fingers, just like I'm doing here, and you'll want to shape it out. You just kind of look for high spots and spots that need to come out further, and just take the pad of your finger and just gently form it. I've got a little spot right here that there had just a little bobble in it. There. Now you can tell that this is a little rounder than this right here. So I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm just going to press that out a little. Again, this is another step that pays to be patient to get that curve exactly the way that you want it. Okay, now I want to verify that it fits on my silver, and it does. So I'm going to, at this step, just draw a line here because I want to cut off some of this sharp excess. I don't want to take it all the way up to the line, but I do want to remove some of that jagged edge, because the very next step that we're going to do, that's going to hinder what we want to do. Now, if you've got a brand new shiny little piece of silver, you're not going to need to do that. So, okay, we have our oval, and now we're going to go on to the next step. Now, you would never use wood sanding paper on metal to finish it. It has irregular grains, and so you would never, ever, ever want to use that. This is automotive sandpaper, and it is made for metal and high finishes. And I have attached it to this foam block. So I use that a lot when I'm sanding down bezel bottoms and things. But I do have this today because rather than finishing our jewelry, we're going to apply a texture to the surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and it is 50 grit sandpaper. I'm going to lay it on the top of my block, and then I'm going to take these clips. I use these clips a lot. I got these at, I believe, at Home Depot. They're great for just holding things. Now, they've got the little rubber grips and things. You'd never want to use them when soldering anything. But when measuring things and holding things so that you can rivet, that is a different story. So what I'm going to do, it's best if you've got a little ledge somewhere. This is a little ledge. If you've got a desk or a bench or something with a little ledge, and I'm hoping, yeah, that'll be enough, then it's great to have a stop for this to stop at. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay our metal face. Actually, I want a diagonal pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and mark an arrow. That way I won't get it turned. Now if you just want a straight pattern, then just, you know, square up your piece. But it is good to put an arrow so that you'll always be going the same way. And I'm just going to lay it on there, and I'm going to press and rub toward myself. And we're going to repeat this over and over. And you can see that it's putting a grooved finish in there. But we want to do that until it's a repeated pattern and it's fully grooved. We want to get it really good and patterned on there. When we apply a patina, it will sit down in those grooves and it will look absolutely beautiful. So look at your piece and see if there are places and areas that aren't quite getting down onto the sandpaper, and then lay it back down and press in those areas. That is giving it a beautiful textured finish. I think we're going to be good over here. I don't think my wire is going to go that far over. But I think I'll continue just another couple of passes. Beautiful. So next what we're going to do is we are going to fuse our oval onto the back. Now it's going to be best if it is flat. So I'm going to lay that on there, and I'm just going to tap a couple of times with my mallet to get that wire a little flatter so that it will lay flush on my metal. So now we're going to take it over there and we're going to fuse it. Okay, so first of all we need to flux both of our pieces. So I'm going to pour some more of this purple flux in there. Pick this up. It's a little challenging to get in such a small container. So I keep these little brushes. They're just little cheap disposable brushes. And so you can take them and just brush it up on there, both on the front and on the back. I'm going to lay that there. Now I'm going to take my ring, flux it, and I'm going to lay it in my piece exactly where I want it. Now, we only want the minimum amount of flux because when it bubbles up, it will move the wire. So I always keep a paper towel over there with and I twist up the corner. And what I'm doing is I'm wicking away excess flux. Just curl up a little bit of paper towel. And you just wick it away. You can't wick away too much. It's also a good way to, if you need to reposition your piece, you can always nudge it with the paper towel. Now this wire is not completely flat. There's a little slim gap there, but it's not enough of a gap that it's going to hurt anything. Argentium will slump. Now, if it was a large bump, no, it would never ever flush down, or if it did, it would be malformed. So, but there's just the slightest little bit of gap there. In a perfect world, it would be completely flush. So I don't want you to get lazy and sloppy and think you never have to get it flush, but do the best that you can to get it down there. Okay, so now I have that flush. If you have something else to do, you can go away, you can let this dry a little bit, and then come back. And I noticed that my piece was not level, so I wanted it to be level. And you don't want any charcoal bits in there if you can. So I'm going to take my torch, and again, you can use your butane torch. You're going to circle the entire object to heat it up. Remember, I'm keeping my flame about 2 to 3 inches above. The flux is going to go white and puffy. Now, it's going to take longer for this entire piece to heat up than the ring. So just be patient. A lot of times students get impatient and they think they've had the heat on the metal too long and they give up. So just know that it is going to take longer to heat this piece up than if it was just a wire or a smaller piece. And you can see that that wire has already softened and slumped down on that back plate. Now the white flux has gone away and now it has turned dirty, which is the very next step. The next step that we're looking for is for that dirty flux to burn away and it'll be clear. Now if it doesn't all burn away, that's not abnormal either. Sometimes you will begin to see the next step and there are still a few little spots that look dirty. But you can see here that they are starting to burn away and it's looking pristine and clean. Now I love having my hard charcoal block on top of this annealing pan because I can turn it and I can look from all sides. What I'm wanting to see now, the metal is going to start to glisten and look wet, and then the flux is going to separate into micro droplets and dance around the surface. Just to continue to heat the entire piece in a circular motion, bathing the entire thing in the bushy flame. Okay, I'm starting to see this flux separate and it forming little tiny micro droplets. So now I'm going to go focus over the wire because now I want to make sure that it gets really good infused. So I am looking underneath the wire. I'm looking to make sure that there is no more dark shadow of a line, but that there is that white germanium oxide line. Another good reason for the turntable is because I can turn it and I can see all sides. Now there's the entire thing's got the little dancing flux droplets. Look on the inside of your wire as well, not just on the outside. And now it's good infused. I am going to go back in one more time. Okay. Now that is very, very hot. So we're going to have to wait a little bit to quench it. But I do want to demonstrate again. And remember my phrase, if it skitters, don't quench. If the little ball of water skitters across the surface, then it's too hot to quench. And don't keep dropping water droplets on there, because it will be the same as quenching and it could crack it. So just be patient and wait. Now you will notice that my uneven charcoal block, the pendant slumped down into the recesses. In a perfect world, I would have sanded this off, taken it out to the concrete, and just rubbed it back and forth and created a pristine flat surface. But I didn't. But I can straighten that. So, and we are going to texture that rim. So when I straighten this back out, I won't be damaging anything. But again, if you've got a flat, pristine block, then that's all the better. Okay, let's try again. I'm sure it's still too hot, but let's take another droplet of water. Nope, it's still skittering. Again, if we had been using sterling or any other metal, we would have had to have soldered that entire ring down. And it would have had to have laid flush on that metal to solder. You could have never slumped sterling and had it go down to where you needed and then the solder to flow. So when you're working with sterling, you are going to have to make sure that it's completely flush and that your solder flows all the way around. Now you can solder argentium. It solders beautifully. But I reserve that for further down the line, usually when I've done almost all the fusing and I've heated it as many times thoroughly as I want to, and maybe putting a little, bail or something on, then I can just go in there with a quick little bit of solder it and be done. Ah, we're getting there. Okay. Now, we can pick this up. I'm going to put it in my basket. It's just easier to quench that way. Now I'm going to pickle it, and we'll go on to the next step.